Welcome to ABS Treasurers, where I try to decipher this book, There's Treasure Inside by Jon Collins-Black, in order to find one of the 5 hidden treasures. On today's episode, I'm going to continue my breakdown of the Pokemon box and discuss why I think JCB made the unusual decision to include 2 Charizard cards on the opening page of the chapter. Let's begin! One of the unique things about the Pokemon Box chapter is it's the only one of the 4 Part 2 chapters to feature treasure items on the opening page of the chapter. The other 3 Part 2 chapters each start off with a picture of the treasure box. Now, this choice to start off the Pokemon Box chapter in a different way, I think might be a clue indicating that there's something about the Charizard cards that tells us where to start the hunt. But what could it be? I think to answer that question, we have to ask ourselves another question, which is why would JCB include 2 Charizard cards in the chapter? Now, I know what you must be thinking right now. Yo, HT, you sure are asking a lot of questions in this video. When are you going to start giving us some answers? A great question. All right, here it goes. I think if JCB is just using the name, image, or likeness of the Charizard as a clue, then he could have just gotten away with including 1 card. After all, if, for instance, the name Charizard was the clue, then he would only need 1 card to make that connection. Same thing if the clue was, say, a dragon, or something dragon-like, like fire. All of these attributes he could have indicated as clues with a single card, but he included 2 Charizard cards instead of just 1. Also, if he was using some detail on the card itself as a clue, then again, he could have just used the 1 card and not needed the other one. Like if he wanted to make a point of it being a first edition, or not having a drop shadow, or the fact that it's shiny, there's lots of connections he could have made with a single card. But again, he chose to include 2 cards. So this leads me to think that he needed both cards to come up with a single clue. And that clue should help us find the starting point of the hunt, since he made the distinct choice of including the image of the cards at the start of the chapter. I think in typical JCB fashion, the clue isn't something that you can see on the cards themselves. That would be too obvious. I get the sense, after spending a lot of time with the treasure book, that JCB likes to hide the clues just under the surface. And I think he's doing that here. You see, I believe he designed the layout of the opening page of the Pokemon Box chapter with the cards deliberately positioned side by side for a reason. And in interviews, JCB said that you don't need to be a Pokemon expert to find the clues. So I took this to mean that the reason he chose the 2 Charizard cards has to be something basic. And I think that basic thing is the Pokedex number of the Charizard, which happens to be 6. Now, I know what you must be thinking. Yo, HT, are you suggesting that the reason JCB used 2 Charizard cards positioned side by side at the start of the chapter is so that their Pokedex numbers would read 66, meaning that we should start our treasure hunt somewhere along the iconic road trip road, Route 66? I mean, the way you say it, it makes a lot of sense to me. Doubling up on the Pokedex number to connect to a road number does seem to be a good reason to include 2 of the same type of Pokemon card side by side. I think it's also possible that JCB doubles down, pun intended, on this connection with the opening line of the Pokemon Box story when he writes, "I was 5.5 years old." As I've mentioned before in my videos, this equates to 66 months, which I believe is another nod to Route 66 being the starting point. Now, because I like to beat the comedic elements of my videos to death, I know what you must be thinking. Yo, HT, why wouldn't JCB just use a Pokemon with Pokedex number 66 in the story instead of 2 Charizards? It's a great question. I think he kind of did. If you look at the Pokemon who has a Pokedex number 66, it's the Machop, who looks suspiciously like the Froakie drawing in the chapter, especially in the face. And remember that the Froakie is a starter Pokemon from the Pokemon game X and Y, which could be another nod that the starting location is somewhere along Route 66. Anyway, that's all I've got for today's video. I hope you found it interesting. And in the immortal words of top 40 treasure hunter Casey Kasem, remember to keep your boots on the ground and keep reaching for those stars.